You are listening to Thinner Peace in Menopause with Dr. Deb Butler. This is episode number 247. It's the end of the year, guys. Welcome to Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. If you're a woman and you're smart and you're successful and you've been struggling with weight your whole life, and now menopause is making it harder than ever, and you are ready to make this the last time you ever have to go on a diet again, then this podcast is for you. Stay tuned. Hi, all my dear friends. How are you today? I know as you're listening to this is really the last podcast of this year. And this is the 4th year I think I've been doing these podcasts. I can hardly believe it. But you know what? My message hasn't changed very much. And what I've been talking about in maybe these last 4 or 5 podcasts about how to use the holidays to help you manage your mind even better, right? Because all the things that you think cause you to overeat seem to happen around the holidays, between being with people you may or may not want to be with, or maybe not being able to do the things you wish you could do. But whatever it is, it does trigger emotions, and emotions do trigger actions, because what you know from listening to me is that your thoughts create your feelings create your actions, and your actions create your results. Right? And so our emotions are so important, our feelings, because they dictate what we do. And how we feel is dictated by our mind, not by our circumstances, not by the holidays, not by the people who are around us or the people who are not around us. It's dictated by our perception of all of that, which is just what we call our thoughts. And one of the beautiful things I've learned with working with the different groups this year, with working with my individual clients one-on-one, is that what happens in our coaching when they have this one aha moment. And you know what that aha moment is? Even if you've been listening to my podcast, the aha moment comes when you finally realize that you get to believe whatever you want, that you get to think whatever you want. And when you finally see that, your world opens up like you cannot imagine, or maybe you can imagine because maybe it's already happened to you. So for a lot of my clients who I've worked with who may be listening to this, I know you know what I'm talking about. And for my clients that I'm working with now who may not know this yet, but want to believe that they can think whatever they want, this podcast is for you too. Because I want to give you an example of a couple of stories that I've had recently. I want to tell you one story that I had in my coaching group right now in the class that I'm teaching. And by the way, a new class will be opening up at the end of January. The doors only open up about 3 times a year. So I want you to be thinking about that. But in this special class that I'm teaching, one of the things that turned out as we have been talking about the model, because one of the things I teach in class all the time is how the model functions and how to apply it to yourself. So one of my clients that I was working on, she came on. And what she was talking about in her model, she was talking about how very, very sad she was because she wasn't going to be able to see her kids that lived in other parts of the country due to the virus, that they just didn't think it was safe that they should travel. And she felt so sad. And when I asked her how sad she felt, because I always like to ask you or my clients about how strong the emotion is, strong when it's positive or negative. But for her, I asked her how strong it was from a -10 to a 0. So -10 is the strongest vibration that you could possibly have in your body. And she said her sadness was at a -8. It was so strong. And the thought that she was thinking is that she's never going to see her kids again. Now, that's what I want to talk about, because the circumstance is truly that there's a pandemic and that she's not going to travel. That is the circumstance. Her thought about that is that she's never going to see her kids again, her grown children and her grandchildren. She's never going to see them again. Now that's a thought. That's a sentence in her head that is triggered by the circumstance. And when she thinks it, she felt so sad. Now, one of the things that I want to show you and what I showed her and this group is because she was so sad, there was no even beginning to talk to her mind about this thought. Because the vibration, the emotion was so strong, it was too strong that she couldn't think. And so what I did with her is what I want to invite all of you to think about. And it may be hard if you've never done it before, but I just want to talk about it with you a little bit and show you how you do it when you have a very strong emotion. Because what she's been doing with this strong emotion is resisting it, telling herself she shouldn't be feeling it, trying to just get with the program. And that's led to one of the main things that she's in the class for, which is overeating. She's overeating. The sadder she feels, the more she wants to eat. The sadder she feels, the more she doesn't want to feel sad. So in this class, the first thing that I did, because I was showing people how to create unintentional thoughts and intentional thoughts, and an unintentional thought, which is what this was, it wasn't an intent. She wasn't intending to want to think that. It's just what was up there and she grabbed it, right, and believed it. And when she did, it led to such sadness. But when the sadness, and I've talked to you guys about this before, when the emotion is strong like that, like anything -5 or more, you really have to process the emotion first before you can think again. And so that's what I did with her, is I helped her process this sadness, which really led to a lot of tears for her, which is really what she needed to do, which was just to let it out. And we talked about where she was feeling it in her body. And first, she felt it in the back of her neck. Her neck felt really tight and her head felt really tight because I was asking her, where do you feel it? Where do you feel it? And as I kept asking her where she felt it, she would go and she would feel it and she would tell me how tight it was. And then after she felt it in her neck and her head, it went to her stomach. And so I just asked her how it felt in her stomach. And so she went to her stomach. And basically, I know this, I'm simplifying this, I know, but this is the beginning of processing an emotion where you just go and you feel it. Because I think what most of us are afraid of, and I know that she was just afraid of feeling the sadness that if she really went there, she would lose it and she would never come back again. But what happened, which was a miracle for her, for everybody that was watching, after she was through crying, after she felt the tightness in her neck and her head and her stomach, she also noticed that everything started to dissipate, that she could feel the tightness in her stomach loosen up, and that her neck started to relax, and her head started to relax. And then what happened, which was the most beautiful thing, is she actually ended up with a smile on her face. Not a forced smile, but a smile of relief, because she just went and felt the emotion. Now, that's called processing an emotion, and I am telling you that when this emotion is strong, you can't go changing thoughts. You have to be able to hold a space for yourself, which is what I did for her, what I was teaching everybody on this call to do. Sometimes in the beginning, you really do need somebody to help you do it. Maybe you do need a coach to help you do it. But I will tell you, once you've done it a few times, you can learn how to do it for yourself, which is exactly what happened with her. Now, I want to tell you the miracle of this is that once she processed the emotion, she could think again. And she looked at the thought that she was thinking, that I'm never going to see my kids again. And I didn't say anything. But you know what? She realized in that moment, well, that's not true. I will see them again. I'm just not going to see them this holiday season. And you know what? That's a totally different thought from I'm never going to see them again to I just don't get to see them this time. I will get to see them again. Because that's a much better thought to think. And you know what? Sometimes you got to give your thoughts equal airtime, which means that the thought that I'm never going to see him again, once you start thinking that, you go down a rabbit hole of how you're never going to see him again. But if you give equal airtime to, you know what, it's just this holiday, I'm never going to see them again. You start thinking about all the times you might see them again. It creates a different feeling. It creates a different action, which of course for her, which was that she could see things more clearly. And then she knew she would see them. In fact, then she started talking about, well, I do see them every week on Zoom, right? It's not like she never sees them. And I know she wants to see them in person, but her brain wouldn't let her see any of this with this strong negative emotion that she was just trying to resist. She was trying to just push it away. It never works. The worst thing that can happen to us with an emotion is feeling it. And what our brains try to tell us is we can't handle it. But actually, it's the only thing that creates relief. She was a perfect example of it. When we finished with that model, because the purpose of this whole conversation, this coaching session with her, was to teach an intentional and unintentional model. And she came on to volunteer her unintentional model. And the most interesting thing that I also want you guys to always be aware of is that it's very, very important that you separate out your circumstances and your thoughts, because she was saying things about the virus that it's restraining, right? That it restrains her from doing things. I know you guys might believe that to be a fact, but actually it's just a thought. And when she believed it, she felt restrained inside of herself. You know, we all think different things about this virus and we all don't believe the same things. But one thing we know for sure, it is here. That's what we know. It's a fact. We all have very different thoughts about it, very different thoughts. So for her, she just changed the result of her enjoying her holiday season because she changed the way she thought about it. She could enjoy herself and she would see them again. I really want you to look at that for yourself, and I want you to have this, own this power, is that the one thing that you always have control over is what you decide to think. And as for this client in this group, when she started, she didn't think she had any control. She thought this thought was the only answer. She looked at it as a fact, but it was a thought. And here's the thing that she said, and I really want you to think about this too. When she had this awakening, when she processed all the emotions, when she could start looking at her own mind and her own thoughts, she got really excited. She said, you know what? I really do get to think whatever I want. That's that aha moment I'm talking to you about. I know when you listen to me a lot, all you want to do is change your thinking. But it's the organic way that it happens, that when you actually can see, when you become aware of what's going on, even if you have a thought that's painful, but you can see that it's just a thought, that it's not a fact, is the aha-ness. You know, I was coaching an individual client of mine also recently that comes to mind when I think about this. And she's a doctor and she's a very hard worker. And one of her problems has been that whenever she has downtime, when she's not working, she wants to fog eat a lot. And what we've been learning over our sessions is that she has a thought that she believes with all her heart, like she wants to put it in the fact line, is that there's always more to do. I should be doing something. So even when she's not working or she's with her family, instead of being able to enjoy a moment, her brain is going, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that. And of course, what that leads to is it leads to a lot of unrest, restlessness, as she would put it. And when she felt restless, what she wanted to do is she would just start kind of putting food in her mouth. Now, we've been through maybe half of our program so far. And in our last session, after doing a lot of coaching on some of these thoughts about I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough, I should be doing more, I know you guys can relate to this woman. She's strong, she's successful, and she never lets herself off the hook because she always thinks there's more. Now, here's the thing. After a couple coaching sessions, after realizing a little bit about where the thought is coming from, why she thinks it, she all of a sudden had this aha moment. And you know what she thought? She said, I've already done enough. Now, this was organic. This isn't me coming. But after looking at her life and all the schooling that she's done and all the things that she's done, instead of thinking I have to do more, she looked at me like she had this moment of pure consciousness, of awareness. And she says, you know what? I have done enough for a lifetime. And she really believed it because she was looking at it and she, instead of thinking I have more to do, I've done enough. Now, let me tell you what, that was a pure aha moment for her. Pure. And you know what happened after that? As she was just going, oh my gosh, I get it. Because a lot of you who are very, very strong, very, very successful, understand everything I'm talking about. And when you're in your heads, you do not see this. She did not see it. She'd been listening to my podcast for a while. She said, oh no, I know everything you're talking about. I know this model. I've seen this model. I just can't change it. But you know what? She didn't really see the model. She really believed that she wasn't doing enough. She really believed that she should be doing more. She could not see that it was an option. And after the coaching, she had the aha moment. I've done enough. And she believed it as much or more than she's not doing enough. And that's going to change everything for her and her life. Because the minute she looked at me, well, she didn't look at me. What she said to me, she says, oh my gosh, I get to think whatever I want. That's what I want to leave you with as an end of the year gift. You really do get to think whatever you want. If you don't like how you're feeling or you don't like your results, it's just because of a thought that you're believing that you just don't know how to either see or let go of. And that's everything that I do as a coach. But I want you to see with these two examples that if it's possible for these two clients in two different situations, it's totally possible for you. So I really want you to think about as the new year comes, what do you want? And if what you want is to believe with all of your heart that you really do get to think whatever you want, then maybe it's time to have a mini session. Let's talk. Let me show you how it works. Let me see if I can help you. I'll know in the time that we spend together if I can help you or not. And if I can, I'll tell you how. All you have to do is go to drdebbutler.com/work with me, and you can set this up. And as always, what I want to impart to you, as I do at the end of every single podcast, and as the new year comes, that one thing never ever changes. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, please, please, please be very kind to yourself. And I'll see you in the new year 2021. Bye-bye. If you're loving my podcast and you would like some more information to be able to follow along with, then please go to drdebbutler.com/change and you can get a free copy of my companion book that goes with this podcast that I refer to in many different episodes. That is drdebbutler.com/change. CHANGE.